and they came up with a song. One of their songs was Genius of Love. It's one of the most sampled records out there. It's been sampled over 200 times, probably countless, but you just don't, know who all has sampled it these days. And in it is a very, very iconic bass line. So everyone associates that bass line with Tina Weymouth, right? They're like, oh, that's a great bass line. That Tina, oh, damn, she's good. To be honest, Tina wrote it, but on the record that everyone knows and that everyone samples, that's not Tina. Hey, welcome back to another episode of WTF History, episode 4 with my fellow presenter, Mike Gatto. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great.
By the way, Mike and I try to give you history stories which make you go, what the f***? Yeah, today's going to be a little different, Mike, at least for me. Our theme is music. What we'd really like is in the comments, after you watch the episode, if you can let us know which one of you think had the better story. So mine is more recent history, Mike. Mine goes back to 1981. So everybody's familiar with the Talking Heads. Talking Heads were a huge band in the late 70s and up until like 91 when they broke up. I think they broke up. Well, they were one of those groups that broke up ahead of their time. So, in fact, they all were artists. They met at they kind of came together at the Rhode Island School of Design. The rhythm section of the Talking Heads was the drummer Chris Franz and the bassist Tina Weymouth, who were also married. And they had met at the Rhode Island School of Design. Many people love Tina Weymouth as a bassist. She has very simple, clean bass lines, almost mathematical in their simplicity and cleanliness. And she's not out there, like slapping on it like Larry Graham and Bootsy, which is fine, but she's a very clean, precise bass player. And she really gave them a really cool sound. So in 1981, the lead singer and what most people would consider the star of the show, David Byrne, decided that he was going to go out and he was going to do a couple of solo albums. And the guitarist, Jerry Harrison, he decided he was going to do a solo album. But for the husband and wife, Tina and Chris, they were like, well, what does that do with us, man? We're not going to tour for like a year and a half, 2 years. So we got no money. There was a record executive named Chris Blackwell, and Chris Blackwell was with Island Records. And Chris was always upset because Chris had wanted to sign the Talking Heads, and he feels that they were kind of taken from him. He got in touch with Chris and Tina, and he said, hey, I know you guys are taking a hiatus right now. Why don't you guys come down to the Bahamas, cut a single, and if it's good, why don't we think of an album? And so they said, fine. So they came up with with a group. They called it the Tom Tom Club. Tina was like, well, I can't sing. And Chris is like, well, you can do something called rap. You just kind of talk. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. And as I said before, they were artists. They were into that scene where hip hop was taking off and rapping was just starting to take off. And they all hung out with artists and they were used to that kind of musical vocabulary. This is not about that song, though, but it's important. So they did the song. It's called Wordy Rapping Hood, and it was a huge hit, especially overseas. It was a big, big club hit, a big dance hit in Europe, in Asia, and it really gave them the basis to go back to the studio. Chris said, hey, I have like a very short period of time, but if you guys can make it within this period of time, you can cut an album for the Tom Tom Club. Get in there. And they came up with a song. One of their songs was Genius of Love. It's one of the most sampled records out there. It's been sampled over 200 times, probably countless, but you just don't, know who all has sampled it these days. And in it is a very, very iconic bass line. So everyone associates that bass line with Tina Weymouth, right? They're like, oh, that's a great bass line. That Tina, oh, damn, she's good. To be honest, Tina wrote it, but on the record that everyone knows and that everyone samples, that's not Tina. We don't know who it is. We think we know who it is, but it's not Tina. And why isn't it Tina Weymouth who's playing the actual bass on Genius of Love? Well, she wrote it, as I said. But remember I told you that Chris Blackwell told them, I only got a couple of days of studio time. If you guys can make it, if you can cut an album in there, cut your album. So Tina had been playing the bass over and over and over. She had just been working that bass on all these different songs, trying to work out, trying to write them, play it and write it. And when it came the day for her to actually cut Genius of Love, her arm seized up. She could not move her arm. And like, as she said, and as I said, I didn't even know that thing was possible. But apparently, she honestly played the bass so much during that short amount of time that they had in the studio that she literally could not move her arm, which she used to play the bass. There were two engineers. There were two assistant engineers in the studio that day: Kendall Stubb and Benji Armbruster. So one of them was the guy that actually played the bass. So one of them stepped up and she showed them the notes and they played it. And they actually did a very good job. And their bass lines are the bass lines, whichever one of them it was, Kendall or Benji, they laid down the bass that you now hear in Genius of Love and that has been sampled. Tina Weymouth wrote it, but she didn't play it. So, Mike, that is my
Crazy.
WTF history.
I mean, have any of these techs like sued and said that they're owed royalties or anything like that?
No, but it's kind of funny when you look up the song. It has all the members of the band, and then it has the two assistant engineers listed.
That's amazing.
It lists both of them, and that's rarely done. I mean, what other songs do you see where the assistant engineers are listed? And I think it's because people know that, hey, one of these guys actually played the bass.
That is crazy.
Tina wasn't even sure. She's like, I don't know. One of them just stepped up and played.
Well, I have a fascinating piece of musical history too, and it doesn't go that far back in time either. And so my WTF piece of musical history is a question to everybody out there, which is, which hugely successful Christmas song that is still played today was banned by the United Kingdom? And the answer is, I'll Be Home for Christmas.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree.
What?
And people right now are like, what? Huh? How is that possible? I'll Be Home for Christmas was written in 1943 for Bing Crosby. And it was, one of his biggest hits. People argue that the most iconic version is arguably Frank Sinatra's version of it in 1957. But this song was immensely popular in 1943. And everybody is probably thinking now about the lyrics. The lyrics say, I'll be home for Christmas. Please make sure there's snow and mistletoe and presents around the tree. And it goes through all the traditional Christmas things that people expect. But then the song ends with the singer saying, I'll be home for Christmas, but only in my dreams. And if you look at the context of this, again, history, context is everything. The song was written in 1943. And this song became the most requested song of all time by U.S. troops. In 1944, you had a lot of people away from their families and they requested the song. And the U.S. troops loved it.
Oh.
But the government in England thought that it was too harsh for troops' morale. They thought that the song was too melancholy, right?
Yeah.
They were focusing on the last part of the song as opposed to the first part of the song.
I could see that.
And they thought it was too melancholy and they banned it. They said it cannot be broadcast by the BBC. It can't be played for the troops. It's going to crush morale. And, if you look at like what was going on in 1944, right? Yeah, everybody could see that the end of World War II was in sight, but the Germans, the Japanese were showing no sign of surrendering. They knew it was going to be a bloody next 1 or 2 possible years. In 1944, the United Kingdom was facing severe manpower shortages. The strength of the British Army in December 1944 was 100,000 less than it was in 1943. So that was even after calling up new conscripts, after drafting new people. Their army had shrunk in size. And folks, we know why it shrunk in size, right? Between 1943 and 1944. They were fighting in Asia. They were fighting on the continent. Losses were still higher than could be replaced. So there were more people dying than guys were turning 18. So, you fathom that. And in 1944, again, Christmas 1944, the United Kingdom had to call up 35,000 guys from the Royal Air Force, guys who their job had been to refill, airplanes, and they had a pretty nice and safe job. They had to call them up and say, hey, just kidding, you're going to become a rifleman in the infantry. That's how bad things were at that time, 1943, 1944. So this song takes on a whole new meaning. Again, for American troops, it was the most requested thing. I'll be home for Christmas, please have snow. It's very nostalgic, right? And it's probably how all those troops feel. And this song was written for Bing Crosby to go inside the voice of an American GI overseas.
I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams.
But for the British, it was too melancholy. That last line, I'll be home for Christmas, but only in my dreams. That line was too melancholy, and the United Kingdom banned it. This song could not be played for 3 years.
Wow.
And you think about it now because it is such a big hit, and it is a Christmas fixture every single year.
That was good. I should have come up with a Christmas story. Dang it. You made me feel bad. That is really good. I think a lot of people have lost context of that song that when it came out, and one of the reasons that it has lasted so long is that it was aimed at the soldiers and the American soldiers. And that's why it was such a huge hit, because it struck a chord in both the people at home and the people overseas in Europe and Asia, the soldiers. So that was I like that one, Mike. That was good. That was really good. And
please vote in the comments.
yeah, right. So that was episode 4 of WTF History. And as always, Mike and I would love if you could, 1, subscribe, but 2, if you can put in the comments who you think had the better story, or who messed up the most, or whatever.
Which story made you say WTF? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Which facts blew your mind? Which facts did you not know?
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Mike. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Hey, if you like what you hear, like and subscribe. It really means a lot, and we would love to have you coming back every week. Thank you.